Hello everyone, welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C race review. We're taking Group 1 machinery round Autopolis International Racing Course in Japan, and I didn't have a whole lot of enthusiasm for this race before going into it, but after this one I definitely had none left. So the race settings for this one: 12 laps to get round, tyre weight at times 6, fuel at times 2, just the racing hard tyres available. And if you've seen the strategy guide, then you will be very familiar. This is just a plain old non-stop with an 11.5 second pit loss, no strategy in play. So the car we're in here, you're going to join on board and qualify. I'm just going to put a few laps in before we jump into the race. We're in the Porsche 919 hybrid. You kind of have to choose a hybrid car for this one. The Toyota being the most popular. You'll kind of find out why in this video, why it is definitely the better car to go for. But I won at 32.391 was good enough to put us into 7th place for this race here. This is the top split lobby, but it is a very late at night one. I think this is the 11:30 race, so not too many names there that I'm particularly familiar with. I don't think there's any other A+ drivers in here. Maybe the driver in front of me, if I remember correctly, may actually be an A+ driver. But we're underway here, starting just after the last corner. We'll get this one underway, and we'll see what we can do in the Porsche up against all the Toyotas. So the race gets underway here. Now we are just going to slow the footage down as we take a little bit of a look behind. I just wanted to do that just to show you just how far back the German driver behind me was as we go into turn number 1. Fair to say, quite a long way behind, but I think you've probably got a good idea of what's about to happen here. You've looked into the radar, it comes in like a heat-seeking missile, uses our car to stop him, and gives us a little bit of a tank slapper as well. We do lose another position, but we gain that back at turn number 2. So let's take a look at that rather ambitious overtaking manoeuvre from the German's perspective. You can see he's a long way behind here. He actually brakes at least 50 metres too late, I think. It didn't look too bad on my onboard footage, but from the replay angle, it's clear to say he was not making that corner without contact with my car. So I was not happy with that one whatsoever to sort of kick this one off. A little bit of carnage here going into the hairpin for the first time. A couple of drivers going to pick up a couple of penalties. We're kind of struggling here as well. These tyres being very cold, Autopolis a fairly slippy track surface at the best of times. And these cars have obviously got a lot of power to put down. We are kind of struggling to kind of find any kind of rhythm over this opening lap. Into the hairpin at the sort of midpoint of the lap, a couple of cars in front of us going to serve a couple of penalties, so we are going to gain a couple of positions here, and that's going to put us up into 5th place as we approach the end of lap number 1. We are actually behind the German who did the dive on us into turn number 1, so we are kind of actually plotting our revenge here. I have to be perfectly honest with you. If we get anywhere near this driver into a braking zone, we were going to chuck it down the inside. So we have actually jumped forward here to lap number 3 now, and we've started to catch up with the drivers in front of us. Now, extremely difficult track to overtake on, and made doubly difficult in these Group 1 cars with the dirty air. And even if I could get close enough to the car in front to try and get a slipstream down the main straight and possibly make a move into turn number 1, I quickly realised that the Toyota had far more hybrid than the Porsche. And you can see just how much the Toyota is able to pull away from the Porsche down this main straight. So that is why everybody's in the Toyota, despite the fact that both cars can sort of set fairly similar lap times. That sort of boost out the last corner with the sort of superior hybrid. It means it is almost impossible to overtake in the Porsche, and you've got a much better chance of making progress in the Toyota. So we jump forward here to lap number 5, and P2 there. Timmy, I do believe his name is starting to struggle, and he's going to make a mistake coming into the fast left-hander here. He's going to get it on the grass, get it all sorts of wrong. He's going to compromise the German as well, and that's going to allow us to make the move down into the hairpin. And this really is the story of this race. If you've got a driver in front of you who can simply keep the car on the track, on the racing line, at a reasonable speed, then you have very little chance of being able to go for an overtake unless they make a fairly major mistake. So on that occasion, we managed to make up a place courtesy of a driver making an error. Up to P3 we go. Now we are behind Timmy here, who kind of initially started that sort of move for me with his mistake, and we're very, very close to him here through this last section. We can just see there is absolutely nowhere to go. Kind of thought he's maybe doing that a little bit deliberately. I think he's maybe just struggling with dirty tyres or trying to find his rhythm here. which kind of cost us a little bit into the last corner. This is not a bad opportunity to get in the slipstream and maybe get a run down into turn number 1, but again, you can just see how much better the Toyota's hybrid is out of that last corner. And really, we're not even close to making a move. We can't even take a sneak peek down the inside or anything. Struggles out of turn number 1 though. Again though, whilst it looks good initially, that hybrid kicks in and we're not really in a position to go for a move. We do take a look and sort of manage to put Timmy offline here. Going to go for a look around the outside here of this double left-hander. Not the best idea, and it's going to actually cost us because we take a bit of a strange line into the hairpin. With the braking, we're kind of braking and trying to turn right at the same time. The back end's going to snap out and we're going to put it into the wall. Now, I don't often make too many major mistakes in races, but yet that was a pretty major error there and has cost us pretty dear. Now let's take a look at what happened from the German's perspective behind us. So you can see we're going side by side here with Timmy through these corners. The German manages to sort of take a look down the outside of the hairpin. As we lose the braking though, I didn't even realise at the time we actually clicked the German in the accident. Why my car never ghosted for him, I'm not entirely sure. It did feel a little bit bad because I've kind of taken him out in my own accident, but given how he dived me into turn number 1, not that sorry if I'm honest with you. However, let's get back to the racing, and if we were in a sort of bad position to start off with the dirty air, we're in an even worse position now. So we're now down in 10th place, and we've got a fairly reasonable gaggle of cars in front of us that we're almost certainly going to beat quicker than most of them. But try to find our way through them, well, we've already seen how difficult that is, unless drivers do things like that for us. So that was one position made up fairly quickly as the Frenchman gets it all wrong at the corner just before the bridge. Just clips that grass and spins off, and I think that's an accident I think most of us have probably done in this track at some point. We'll jump forward here to lap number 9. You can see we're in a big train of cars now, a big train of Toyotas with one little Porsche at the back, and I think we're running from 2nd right up till 9th behind me, so we could get a little bit of a tank slapper on out of the last corner, just catch the curb, and that's going to force us to go defensive down into turn number 1. The Frenchman behind us doesn't really go for an overtaking attempt, probably realises just how difficult sort of going round the outside of turn number 1 is with that off camber sloping, and we sort of filter back into our position, quickly catching up to the group of cars in front of us. But again, once we get to the back of them, once we get into that dirty air, we're pretty much stuck where we are. It's just a case of battling with the car and trying to keep it on the track as much as anything else, because without that front downforce, the cars become fairly horrible to drive. We'll try to find different lines here through some of these corners just to see if we can try and get some grip. But again, the car's got the Toyota's got the hybrid, also got the slipstream. Makes it extremely difficult for us to make any kind of overtaking manoeuvre. Again, look, I'm trying to get offline here, try to find a different part of the track to accelerate on, to try and get some grip. Down into the fast right-hander now, one of the trickiest corners on the track, if not the trickiest. If you catch that gravel on the outside, you're having a fairly major accident. Everybody surviving this time though. Just looking for people to make mistakes here to try and make up some positions, but everybody's keeping it together fairly nicely at the moment. We are able to follow reasonably closely here. I think you're going to get a very good example though of why the Toyota is the car to go with as we come out this last corner. So it's going to be a very similar story to what we've seen already, but on this occasion we do come out with a much better exit than the car in front. But you can see even with that, we don't even get a sniff of a move down into turn number 1. So very, very frustrating race overall. A bit of a shame we made that mistake. P6 there, German Herman's going to make a mistake here, and again, as I said, the only way to really make up positions in this race is through other drivers' mistakes. Making sure you're close enough to take advantage of them. So that's us up into P7 now. Jumping forward here to lap number 11, the Frenchman, I think who was running P4, has made a mistake here. Unfortunately, we're not close enough to capitalise on that. Can we get a move down into turn number 1 with the slipstream? I think you know the answer to that if you've been watching the rest of the video. We're not going to be anywhere near go for a move. Look at that hybrid on the Toyota, just so much better than the Porsche. And yeah, that is definitely the reason why you want to be going with the Toyota into this one. If you're going to drive any car, that is at all, because I certainly don't recommend this race. As I said, previously, I wasn't too enthused about doing the race to start off with. I did think I would just jump in and do a couple, just to see how it was. This was my very first race that I did, and the combination of it just being a Toyota Fest, the dirty air and stuff like that, I didn't really have any great desire to do another one. So once we got to the finish line here, which couldn't come quick enough, to be honest with you, felt like a particularly long race, we decided we were not going to do another one. So 7th place it is for this one. We did actually get a clean race bonus for some reason. Can't quite work that one out, given that I binned it and put it in the wall, and also collected another car in the process. But you know, there's Gran Turismo Sport for you in a nutshell sometimes. So hopefully I've served up some entertainment to you. At least you can get to see me bin it, put it into the wall. We had to dive into turn number 1. It was some fairly close racing action. Hopefully you're having a little bit more fun in this race than me, if you are indeed doing it. But until next week's Daily Race C, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.